Day 345 of the Daily Stoic. Don't sell yourself too cheaply. Quote, I say, let no one rob me of a single day who isn't going to make a full return on the loss. Seneca on Tranquility of Mind 1.11b. People spend a lot more money when they use credit cards than when they do have cash. If you ever wondered why credit card companies and banks push cards so aggressively, this is why. The more credit cards you have, the more you'll spend. Do we treat the days of our lives like we treat our money? Because we don't exactly know how many days we'll be alive, and because we try our hardest not to think about the fact that someday we'll die, we're pretty liberal with how freely we spend our time. We let people and obligations impose on that time, only rarely asking, what am I getting in return here? Seneca's maxim is the equivalent of cutting up your credit cards and switching to cash. He says to put real thought into every transaction. Am I getting my money's worth here? Is this a fair trade? I think I struggle with this passage and this today. And the reason is because I run a venture fund and I work with startups and I build startups. And when you raise a venture fund, you will have 99% of your conversations be not that productive. And the reason is because, especially if you're raising for a fund, then you're spending a lot of your time asking people for money and getting rejected, right? And so you're going to get rejected thousands of times. No facetiousness there, no exaggeration. If you're doing it seriously, you will get rejected thousands of times. Also, as a venture fund, you're interviewing entrepreneurs, operators, people who want your money. And so you spend a lot of time talking with them, only to realize that they don't have the necessary ingredients or the necessary personality traits or the necessary heart or grit or perseverance or resilience necessary to succeed. And so you end up having these conversations with individuals that you're not going to deploy money into because they're just not the ones that can deliver the goods. And so I struggle with this because if I ask myself, am I getting my money's worth here? Is this a fair trade? The answer in the venture capital and startup world would almost always be no, because I already know the chances are low that this is going to be a good opportunity. This is going to be the best operator that I can find. This is the best idea with the best, TAM and the lowest CAC, right? And all these numbers that matter, right? And when it comes to raising, you're asking for money and you're getting rejected all the time. So sometimes you spend an hour and a half, 2 hours on the phone explaining stuff, and they're like, yeah, not interested. So it really is contextually specific, right? I think the thing to remember for you and for my audience out there, whether you're just listening on podcast or watching on video, is that you should still ask yourself the question, am I giving away too much of my time to people that don't matter? And I say it in a terse way here, but I think that has value by saying it that way. There's no way to sugarcoat this. Your life is a timeline, and the timeline is running shorter and shorter and shorter every single second that passes. And one has to wonder, at least once in life, whether you've wasted a lot of your life doing shit that don't matter. For example, I know that I have spent hundreds of days, 24-hour days, so hundreds of days times 24 hours, full days. I have spent hundreds, probably I've spent an entire year, 365 24-hour lengths playing video games in the past. Now, did I know any better? Not really. Was I born and raised in the times when video games are actually good and the storylines were actually good and you can engross yourself in these and still be able to go play outside as well? Yes. Did I have a balanced childhood better than the ones that are alive today? By far. But I did waste a lot of time playing those video games, and I'm glad that I gave up those hobbies, those time bandits, as I became an adult. I'm not going to ever judge a man for his hobbies. He can have whatever hobbies he wants. But I do judge a man when they complain about what they don't have or what they haven't achieved yet, and they also have hobbies. You see, you can't have both. If you want greatness and let's just say success in industry, you can't have hobbies. If you want outsized success in industry, you cannot have hobbies.